So, a little bit of a diversion here, because I think there's a point, because we're talking about the gospel of desire in our study of Matthew. I don't believe that Joseph that his birth was for nothing. I do not believe that Jacob was supposed to stay another 6 years with Laban tending to his flocks. I'm of the opinion that Joseph's birth was designed to be a catalyst for them to leave, given the level of dysfunction that they experienced in Padan Aram. So, when I go over here to Joseph's birth, here we go. Then God remembered Rachel, Genesis 30, verse 22. And God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Yusuf in the Hebrew, Joseph in the English, saying, may the Lord add to me another son. Yusuf means may he add. It is something that you're saying every time you refer to that, may he add, it's a blessing. May he add. Let the Lord add. As soon as Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go to my own home and country. Jacob sensed it. As soon as he was born, that shifted something that was supposed to shift in the natural. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, that I may go, for you know in the service I have given you. But Laban said to him, if I have found favor in your sight, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you.
He needed divination to learn that, please.
So, at that point, he was supposed to leave. You know, we have those relatives sometimes that do the leechy thing on us, and we know we're not supposed to be with them. We visit, that's fine, but Poor Richard's Almanac, fish and visitors smell in 3 days. Yeah, so I'm going to give you all this whole presentation about how the Lord has blessed me, and then later that night, and Jacob knew something the following morning after he agreed and signed on the dotted line, it's just like, oh crap, this is what I signed in for. He woke up, because his promise was speckled, striped, and spotted livestock. Sheep and goats, as it were. He saw the speckles and the stripes and the spots beforehand, so he knew as a giver, playing his odds with his gut, that he would have buku wealth. He ended up doing stupid with zeros attached to it. Think he was getting zeros and netting zeros, but at what cost? He woke up the following morning, said, oh my word, something is wrong. This flock has shrunken. And look at that. There's not a single striped, spotted, or speckled animal among them. Laban, in the middle of the night, had parsed everything out, moved all the stuff that he was supposed to give to Jacob out of the flock. Jacob begins the process with no wealth. Laban, meanwhile, is devouring Rachel and Leah's inheritance. This goes from bad to worse. What do we know about Joseph? Joseph was a ruler. What did he do prophetically? He was a
teacher.
Begins with a D.
Dreamer.
Thank you. They said in Dothan, here comes the dreamer. What do we know about Bethel? Gate of heaven. Who dreamed at Bethel? Jacob. So, Jacob has Joseph the dreamer, land for dreaming. Joseph was supposed to be raised on Bethel's land. Not this piddle farting around with lambs and speckles and stripes and spots and all the conniving that had to engage in more dysfunction, sliminess. We have slimy relatives that want to leech on and create this codependent nonsense and there's no real spiritual vitality to the relationship. They were supposed to leave when Joseph was born. Benjamin was supposed to be born on the land of Bethel. He and his brother, he and his father. You know, you can get all this wealth and yet not have the capacity to dream. God wants you to have wealth and dream. Because God will provide for you and cause resources to come to you in the process of you fulfilling what you were made to do. And it will be an adventure. And you'll have the gift of God, the favor of God to bless you crows, to receive what the Lord has, and to sing the song of Father and not to be used for wickedness. We bless you with purpose and design. You are beautiful and lovely. God created you on the 5th day and called you good, caused you to sing a certain song. The witches and the covens are not permitted to piggyback on you onto our land. We bless you in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Back to our story. We were made for a purpose. If we just try to move and go back and forth and try to connive, hello rose-breasted grosbeak, welcome. If we just connive and try to do what we are supposed to do without the assistance of God and without the help of God, without God as our helper, which He promised He would be our helper, that He would not leave us or forsake us, we're headed for a very hard road. We were made to dream, to see visions, to hear from the Lord directly. You cannot put a price tag on the capacity to hear regularly from the Lord, to get His counsel. Because with His counsel, He will not add sorrow or debt to it. He will add increase, Deuteronomy 28. Peaches, you have something to add?
One of the reasons that Jacob didn't stay at Bethel when he was supposed to is because the land wouldn't support the flocks but the reality is that for that season that the Lord wanted him on Bethel, he wasn't supposed to have the flocks. He had another line of business to go in. He had another way of earning income. God had another way for him, and Jacob couldn't let go of the flocks.
He could have killed them all and sold the meat and then went.
Well, he could have sold the flocks without killing them, but yeah, I mean, that
He could have sold the flocks for all kinds of bills. He would have gotten bills, money.
Yeah, it's he had his eyes on the wrong thing, and so he made the unwise contract with Laban with the idea that he was gonna gain from it. And, so both he and Laban entered unwisely, and he should have listened when, Joseph was born. But also, when he finally did leave, he was meant to stay at Bethel, and he just visited Bethel. It wouldn't support his flocks. So he missed out on a lot of what God had for him, which is not good. That was all I had to say.
Here's the other dynamic proof of this. Earlier on, Abraham's servant. We think Eleazar of Damascus, but the text doesn't say. It could have been any servant of Abraham. It says here that he went off to Padan Aram, to Aram Naharaim, not Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is not where he went. He went to a part of Mesopotamia called Aram, between the rivers. He went off to the house of Nahor, his relative, Abraham's relative, I stand corrected, to hunt for a wife for Isaac. And who does he run into? A younger version of Laban. He says here, Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out towards the man to the spring. As soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms and heard the words of Rebekah's sister, thus the man spoke to me. Once he saw the goods, He ran over to where the camels were with all of their lading, all of their goods from Canaan. And he said, "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? For I have prepared a house and a place for the camels." Translation, I'ma get some. Yeah, hook a brother up is what he's saying here. Let me roll out the red carpet for you. Blink, 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 blink. Come in, oh blessed of the Lord. You know, yeah, Be fruitful, multiply in my house and hook a brother up. So we already know he's got problems because he's focused on the goods and he's not focused on the God. I'm going to say it this way and it's going to sound weird. He was focused on the goods, he was not focused on the gods. Part of the divine council, the Elohim. You get what I'm saying there, right? Did it for the purpose of rhyming. The Lord. He was all concerned with how he could prosper and not how he could flow into vision and birthright and destiny. And later on it says, I'll say, this thing comes from the Lord. Where are we here? The thing has come from the Lord. We cannot speak good or bad for you. Genesis 24:50. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. When Abraham's servant heard the words, he bowed himself to the Lord, to the earth, before the Lord, in the presence of the divine council. And the servant brought out jewelry, and so on and so forth. He also gave to her brother and her mother costly ornaments. Laban got some hookup. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank, spent the night there. When they arose in the morning, even though they had already said, take her and go, they said, let the woman remain with us for a while, at least 10 days. Maybe I can get some more out. I'm going to leech on this. Even though I said take her and go with my father, let her stay. At least it's like they automatically, something changed or flipped. If they saw goods, maybe they could get more goods in the course of those 10 days. Maybe we could extract some more, renegotiate a contract.
Wow. My design always read that differently. My design always read that from the perspective of, they knew they'd never see her again, and they wanted to be able to properly celebrate her and say goodbye. There was a relationship and a sadness and a I love her so much. Just give me a little bit of time with her. So that's just the way I always.
There could have been an element of that, but there was so much dysfunction also present.
No, I think you're right.
That it's hard to ignore.
I agree.
We need to be wise as serpents and careful how quickly and how much we extend relationships and the bravado because somebody's buttering us up.
Agreed. That's a good point.
What if Joseph was designed to remain in Bethel and they come across a bunch of problems that they can't solve, and so all they have to say is, Jacob and Joseph, go to sleep. We'll see you in the morning. We'll sleep on it, as we say in our culture. Jacob and Joseph wake up on the land where Jacob originally dreamed, and Joseph, who was designed to dream, they each get a piece of the puzzle. They put it together. This is what the Lord has said. Now, was Joseph still designed to go to Egypt? Yes, he was. I don't know how he would have gotten from here to Egypt, but he would have. The Lord would have seen it. He still had some things to learn, some things to unpack. And we see that as the story, as it actually rolled out, God brought great good out of it. But there was a possibility that Joseph and Jacob and the family missed out on an opportunity because Jacob wanted to increase his wealth and try to play roulette with somebody who was an expert.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
We have to be careful with whom we play roulette. The casinos are not designed to lose money.
That's very true.
So,
They're designed to gain.
we bless you, gang, to know the purposes and seasons of God and to find the land that you're supposed to be on so that you can receive the counsel that the Lord has for you in due season. Not to delay because, oh, I've got a good venture over here that can maximize my wealth. And wealth maximization is good. I love multiplying some goods and some bills and having some fat loot. However, at the expense of the counsel of the Lord being delayed another 6 years, Nope. No. So, I bless you with the skill and wisdom to multiply all of your resources and to know what your time and season are. And when you have a childbirth, that means it's time for you to move or to transition or a new season because you're pregnant with the purposes of God and the purposes of God have been conceived and birthed out in the Spirit, that you will pursue those things. I bless you with that in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Love you guys.